Good afternoon. Let's try to, let's see if, no. Try to avoid it. We'll always avoid it. Good afternoon. It is 5:01. Mr. Clerk, are we ready to go?
Yes, sir, we are.
All right, good afternoon. It's 5:01. Welcome you to the September 12th, 2025 first budget hearing. I want to thank first and foremost our incredible staff for putting this together and leading us throughout this process. The manager, the city attorney, city clerk, all our staff members that are here and that are not here. Thank you for your efforts, along with the residents that showed up today to be partners with us throughout this process. I also want to thank our District 6 Commissioner who has sent part of her team here to be with us here today. It's incredibly important. Please send our best to Natalie. Thank you so much. Commissioner Orbis, thank you so much for that. So let's get started, Madam Director. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. I also want to thank staff. Today is our first budget hearing, and this is not just for my efforts. This is a culmination of all the efforts of our department directors and particularly my staff. So we also have here today Pedro Sanchez, who's our Senior Management and Budget Analyst. He works very hard on the CIP, on our capital improvement plan, and so I would be remiss not to recognize all of his efforts. Chris Garcia and Ivan Baez, who are also analysts who work on each of the department's budgets and monitor the budgets throughout the year, as well as Anami Garcia, who manages our grants and our internal audit, and our finance director, Diana Gomez, of course, our ACM and DCM, Carolina Vester and Joe Gomez, and our city manager. So thank you so much for everybody's support throughout the year. I'm going to try and make the presentation quick, but today is our, are they showing my screen? Could CGTV show my screen, please? I believe I'm sharing. I'm sharing now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So today is the first budget hearing for our fiscal 25-26 budget. We have met on several occasions to review all the information that gets us here. Today, the purpose of today is to set the tentative millage. So we will set the millage by two hearings, one today and one on September 25th, and adopt our operating and capital and debt budget, which also is done by two hearings, so today and September 25th. I have a short presentation to get through. And you've seen most of these slides, but really today is set at 5:01 so that we give the public an opportunity to hear this information. And so the first slide are significant dates. And so our budget starts early in the year with department directors submitting their operating budget and capital budget requests to us. Our first discussions with the commissioners begin in May, when we have individual commission meetings to review the capital projects that are being proposed for next fiscal year. We then go on to receive our June 1st property values. And so the budget that you received on July 1st was submitted using those June 1st property values. The budget that you'll be seeing here today have the incorporate the July 1st property values, which increased our revenue slightly, and we'll present that today. On June 11th, we met with the commission we had a workshop to discuss capital, and so that's been incorporated into this budget. Then we received we provided our July 1 budget estimate, which is required by city charter, to the commission, and we met on July 2nd to review that budget. We also received our July 1 property appraiser preliminary taxable values from the property appraisers, as I stated earlier, and then we continued throughout the summer to refine revenue estimates and any additional expenditures, which are incorporated into this estimate. On August 4th, we certified our tax rate, the 5.559, which we adopted at the July 1 meeting, preliminarily adopted at the July meeting to the property appraiser, and that is what was placed on the tax roll for our residents, the 5.559 millage rate. And then here we are at our first budget hearing today. And hopefully we'll adopt this budget on September 25th with a second hearing. This slide is breaks out any changes to our budget from the July 2nd presentation. So you'll recall that on our July 2nd presentation, the revenue estimate was $312,552,138. And so the changes in revenue from that July 1 budget estimate are outlined here. So the July 1 property values gave us a slight increase for an increase in property revenue of $578,000. We received some updated estimates from the state and from the county for revenues that we received through there. And so the half-cent CITT, the citizens tax for, which is used for our transportation budget, increased slightly from the July 1 estimate by $15,000, just under $16,000. Our half-cent revenue tax and our revenue sharing, which comes from the state of Florida, one of them decreased by $36,000 and the other increased by $37,000. So a net $1,000 change, but I like to show you individually the changes of those. And then just before our July 1st budget estimate was presented, we had received word that some grants that we thought, some appropriations we thought we were going to receive had been vetoed. And so that was already incorporated into the July 1 budget. So we had to back that amount out, $685,000. And so that was for ADA improvements, particularly in crosswalks and road safety improvements. And so you'll see the equal expenditure coming out of the budget as well. Rent revenue also decreased slightly, primarily for a pop-up shop that we have. So the rent estimate on that went down slightly by $39,000. And then we have two transfers from fund balance, which have been revised since the July 1 estimate. So sanitary sewer, we are bringing in an additional $600,000 from fund balance in the sanitary sewer fund, which is restricted to be used for that purpose, for one-time capital. I'll explain some expenditures on the bottom. And then we are also bringing in an additional $533,000 from the building division reserves, and I'll explain those the associated expenditures in the next section. And so that's a total change in revenue of $1 million, $1,021,456, bringing our total revenues to $313,573,494. And on the expenditure side, so we have to have a balanced budget. So you'll see the expenditures also increased by $1,021,456. And the summary of that is just above. So the of that $1 million, $991,642 is for capital. The breakdown of those capital increases is we bring in funding from the building division reserves to fund additional funding towards the City Hall complex, putting funds towards renewal and replacement in the 427 building, and for some renovations that will be needed for the to accommodate the additional positions that we added at a previous commission meeting. And so that's $750,000 for the City Hall complex. We also increased the funding towards the Ponce de Leon improvements, 8th Street to Flagler. We're increasing it by $300,000, and that was a discussion we had at the last budget meeting to increase that funding to finalize the funding needed for the design of that project so it could move forward a little bit quicker. We increased sidewalk repairs by $176,000. We put an additional $200,000 towards traffic calming. And we also, what was discussed at the last meeting, we also put $250,000 towards audible crosswalks, which was part of the item that was vetoed. And then you see us backing out the $685,000 of the vetoed appropriations. The next adjustment, number 2, seen here, is the salary and benefits adjustment. And so that $728,000 is a reduction to the salary and benefits expenses that is primarily due to a decreased estimate of health increase. So originally we were getting estimates that our health insurance was going to increase by 15%. through the great work of our HR department and the city manager's office, we were able to negotiate that down, and so they've negotiated it down to a 10% increase. And so the cost of that is also going down in our budget. So most of that $728,000 decrease is for a decrease in our estimate in health insurance cost. Professional services is decreased by $100,000. This is an item that we had placed in the budget for IT security in the police department. They needed that funding this year, so we identified $100,000 this year, and we took that $100,000 out of the budget for next year, redistribute it to other areas. Sanitary sewer, waste and wastewater and waste disposal cost. So the cost of our disposal in sanitary sewer is increasing. These are rates that are given to us by the county by 19%. And so for that reason, we brought in the $600,000 of one-time revenue from their fund to fund capital in order to move reoccurring money to fund the increase in waste disposal of $687,000. We have a slight decrease in miscellaneous expenses of $14,600, an increase to contingency primarily in the sanitary sewer and stormwater funds. We just, any excess that we have in that fund, we put it towards contingency so that they have the ability to be flexible to absorb things like potentially a wastewater disposal cost or something of that nature. And so when we make adjustments within the budget, some of the costs redistribute, and so as a result of that, we will have an additional $1,762 to transfer to reserve from the city clerk's restricted reserve fund, and then the other and then the transfer to fire inspection reserve, which is restricted to fire inspections, is decreasing by $144,000. So for a total increase in expenditures of that same $1 million that we received in revenue, for a total budget of $313,573,494 for fiscal year 26. So this is just a revised, the next slide is a revised summary of revenues and estimates. So our operating revenue is now $281,212,083. Transfers from reserve are outlined here, and that they equal $32,361,411. The transfer from capital improvement has not changed. That is for one-time capital. The transfer from general fund, which primarily funds one-time items, it's also helping us to fund the pension. Next year's $10 million. Transfers in from art and public places, which funds art and public places in our operating budget. And capital, the Coral Gables Capital Impact Fee Fund, we're bringing in an additional we're bringing in a total of $870,000 for next fiscal year. $4.1 million from the building reserve, $65,000 from the fire inspection reserve. Roadway improvement fund, we're bringing in $90,000. Parking fund, we're bringing in just under $3.4 million. Sanitary sewer fund, we're bringing in a total of $4.9 million. And neighborhood renaissance program, which is a program that phased out, we're bringing in the remaining $807 in that fund. Our total operating expenditures is $245,748,007. Our capital budget is $53,021,235, and our debt service goes unchanged at $10,582,190 for a total expenditure of $309,351,432. Transfers from reserve are $3,460 from the city clerk's special transfers to reserve. We will transfer $3,460 to the general fund, city clerk special revenue. We estimate to transfer $18,602 for the fire inspection revenues, and we have been training the budget for the last few years for the parking budget to be able to, I'm going to say the word absorb, I can't think of another word, but to be able to absorb the debt for the renovations at Garage 1. And so this year, we will be transferring $4.2 million to be able to set aside for the future debt of that garage, for a total of $4,222,062, a total budget of $313,573,494.
May I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Apologize for interrupting. When did we start putting that money aside?
So I believe that this is the third year. We will double check that, but it's between the third or fourth,
I think it's
fifth
the
year.
fourth year.
Fourth year, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? You saw this slide at the July 2nd meeting, so this is a slide that just breaks out the total salaries and benefits by department. The slide changed by that same approximately $700,000 that was reduced for the, primarily due to the health insurance cost reduction from the July 1st estimate to today. The number of positions being added to the fiscal year 26 budget has not changed since the July 2nd meeting. We are proposing adding 7 full-time and 3 part-time. And so those are listed here in the city manager's office in communications. We are adding a part-time videographer in information technology. We are adding an ERP analyst. This will be a second ERP analyst to assist in supporting our new financial system. We are adding an applications manager to support the additional applications as IT becomes more robust. That department needs to become more robust to support all the systems we have. In finance, we are converting a part-time grants and internal audit coordinator to a second full-time grants and internal audit coordinator. And in procurement, we are converting 2 part-time contract specialists to 1 full-time contract specialist. Both of those are expense neutral because of the conversion. In public works, we are converting 2 part-time positions to an administrative assistant, a full-time administrative assistant. We're adding a part-time repair worker in the administrative section, and we are adding a part-time maintenance worker in the sign shop, which would complete a 3rd crew of sign shop maintenance. In planning and zoning, we are adding a zoning reviewer, and in fire, we are adding an assistant chief as part of the community risk department, which is funded by their fire fees, which is restricted similar to the building fees. So for a total of 7 full-time and 3 part-time positions. Here's a summary of part-time positions added to the budget, or the change in positions over the last 10 years. So today's budget would bring us to 955 total positions. You can see the breakout by police, fire, and general employees. The next couple of slides are the capital projects that are being funded in next year's budget. Anything in green denotes a change from the July 1 budget estimate. And so the total capital, I'm just going to read the total by category. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. So for total capital equipment, we are funding $3,082,000. For facility projects, we are funding just over $3,018,000. In historic facilities repairs and restoration, we are funding a total of just over $9.1 million. And here is the highlighted City Hall complex, which I explained to you on the first slide. We increased for work being done at the 427 building. Motor pool equipment and replacement, we are funding just under $4.1 million this year. Parking repairs and improvement, we are funding just over $2.9 million. Parks and recreation repairs and improvements, we are funding just over $6.2 million. Public safety improvements, we're funding just over $3.9 million. In transportation and right-of-way improvements, you'll see that we increased, as noted in the first slide, we increased our sidewalk repair and replacement program, and we increased the sidewalk extension and crosswalk. This includes the additional funding towards the audible crosswalks that we discussed at our last meeting. We also increased the Ponce de Leon Improvements from 8th Street to Flagler, funding an additional $300,000 to fund the design for that project for a total in transportation and roadway projects of $9.6 million. In utilities and repairs and improvements, we're funding just over $15 million for a total capital budget of $57,096,897. I always like to point this out because this number doesn't match the capital on your second slide, and that is because technically motor pool of $4 million, and it's in our operating budget, is part of our operating budget, but we always denote it as part of our capital. And so that is that difference there.
So just a quick question.
Of course.
Does that include our trolleys in that motor pool?
In our motor pool, that does include our trolleys, but we are funding the replacement of some trolleys. Did we put it in the operating budget? We do have the replacement of some additional trolleys in the operating budget for the trolley, in the transportation budget as well.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we need to replace is there is a requirement by the county that we replace every 15 years.
Yes, and so we are trying to make sure that we are keeping up with the requirement of the county to replace the trolleys is it 15 years, Matt? Yeah. And so we've put some additional funding in the operating budget to fund that as well.
Another question, since I've interrupted you. The Renaissance beautification project that was started, well, over a decade ago, has that been paid off? To your knowledge? Or are we still paying that off?
The bond is not paid off. That was a she'll pull it now, how many year bond, but it was probably a 20-year or 25-year debt.
Yeah, and my recollection is that was from years of neglect of capital improvements. The bond was taken out for that purpose. Mary, you were here, so you can shed some additional light on that.
Maturity date right there. So that's when we paid off. That's when it'll be paid off. Yeah.
So it's scheduled to be paid off in 2031.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
My pleasure. If there's no other questions on capital, I'll continue on. And so now we get to some information on the millage. And so this chart is a comparison to the 35 municipalities in Miami-Dade County. This reflects the total millage for each of those cities, right? So our total millage includes what the residents pay to the city, to the county, to the school board, to regional, and there are some other cities that also pay a fire millage or a library millage, and so this is the total millage that each of the cities pay. For those of you who have been on the dais for a while, you'll recall that we have in other years been closer to 12th. You can see that we are now in the 10th. We are the 10th one and the 10th lowest of the cities. And those that are highlighted in blue are the full service cities that we compare ourselves to. So full service is considered those that have their own police and fire. While Key Biscayne is a little bit of an outlier, you can see where we compare. We're the second lowest amongst those.
Yes, Commissioner.
Sure.
Would we consider Key Biscayne full service?
They're
technically not.
They're technically considered full service, but we don't believe that it is a fair comparison because of the services that the manner in which they provide the service, yes.
Right.
You'll see this is,
Through the mayor.
certainly.
So quick question. So following up on Commissioner Fernandez's question. So would you say, in your opinion, then, we are the lowest millage rate for a full-service city, in your opinion?
In my opinion, when I discount Key Biscayne, because we all know that which is why I say they are an outlier, yes, I would say that we are the lowest of those cities, but when I have to technically call them a full-service city, right? But yes, I would say that we are the lowest. I don't necessarily compare our millage to Key Biscayne when I look at other cities.
Thanks.
Thank you. So here is a similar chart that just shows us compared to the full-service cities, including Key Biscayne, and this shows the trend over the last few years. And so you can see that City of Coral Gables has maintained a steady millage rate, while the majority of the cities have, of those full-service cities have fluctuated year over year. And so this is just a nice way to kind of see that progression each year. So this slide used to be the 10-year property tax millage rate schedule, but it is now the 12-year, because you can see that it has now been 11 years that we have maintained the same millage rate. Back in 2015 is when we decreased from 5.589, a very slight decrease, to 5.559, and we've maintained that millage since. This chart shows the estimated average taxable value of a homesteaded property and how it compares to other full-service cities. So the average taxable value for tax year 2025 is $1,012,564. We've slightly increased from about 980 or so last year. And so the average taxable value will pay the City of Coral Gables $5,629 in property taxes next fiscal year if you proceed with the 5.559 millage rate. In the City of Miami, that same property value would pay $2,084 more, so $7,713. In Miami Beach, that same taxable value would pay about $597 more, so $6,225. In Hialeah, they would pay $752 more, $6,381. And in Key Biscayne, which we discussed the difference, they would pay $2,512 less for $3,116. One of the things to point out in Key Biscayne, they also have much less homesteaded properties than we do, and they don't carry a pension liability like we do. Coral Gables properties by type. So we've talked about this over the last few weeks. This is a breakout of the percentage of properties in Coral Gables, broken out by homesteaded residential, non-homesteaded residential, commercial, and all others. And so as they are categorized by the property appraiser's office. So the City of Coral Gables currently has 19,998 properties. You'll see that 54.3% are homesteaded residential, 31.6% are non-homesteaded residential, 8.8 are categorized as commercial, and 5.3 are categorized as all others. And so you can see the change over the last couple of years. The homesteaded has grown slightly, and the non-homesteaded has decreased slightly. Commercial has remained more or less the same, and all others has fluctuated just a little bit and decreased since last year. Property tax revenue, yes.
What do we refer to as all others? Just curious.
All others includes schools, government offices, I believe it includes
Nonprofits.
land, nonprofits would be in there.
Churches.
Churches, right.
Okay, thank you.
There's some other things in there, but those are the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. Property tax revenue by property type. So the total fiscal year projected property tax revenue is about $137 million. And so of that, about $66.9 million comes from homesteaded residential. Non-homesteaded residential generates about $34.4 million of that. Commercial generates about $25 million. And all others generate about $11.1 million. Property tax revenue, again, by property type. This is just the same information, but in a pie chart. Just visually, it kind of reflects a little bit differently. So again, the homesteaded residential is about that $66.9 million, or 48.7% of our property tax revenue. Non-homesteaded residential generates about 25%. Commercial generates about 18.2%, and all others about 8%. Ad valorem, property tax distribution per dollar. So this is always a favorite chart. This is really telling about the level of service that the city of Coral Gables provides compared to the property tax revenue that we receive compared to the county, the school board, and the regional. And so for every 31 cents, the city of Coral Gables receives 31 cents of every dollar of property taxes that our residents pay. Dade County receives 32 cents, school board receives 36 cents, and regional just about 1 cent of every dollar that our property owners pay in the city of Coral Gables. Pension. So this year, we've had a little bit of discussion about the changes in our pension contribution. And so as you all know, we have the annual required contribution. We have an extra payment that is made to the pension in order to facilitate paying down our pension liability, something that we've been working towards for many years now. And the contributions to FRS 401. So several years ago now, the city opened up a 401 option, and you can see that more employees have been participating in the 401 option. You can see that growth in that little orange section on the top. You can see that our annual required contribution was going down, but from last year to this year, the annual contribution increased for a few factors, one of which was the decrease of contribution from the Teamsters in their labor contract. So we decreased their contribution from about 13% to 10%. Some natural gains and losses in the plan, and then the retiree COLA, which was approved last year, which increased our unfunded liability by about $14 million. And so we were able to fund the other losses within the plan. We were not able to fund the $1.8 million, which was the result of the retiree COLA that was granted. So you can see here reflected that last year our funding towards the extra payment was $9.5 million. This year we had to reduce the funding towards the extra payment to $7.6 million because we were not able to fund that additional $1.8 million.
Can we discuss that for a second?
Absolutely.
I think it's critically important. So when did we start giving the additional annual contribution?
It was 2015, I believe, was the first year we did.
So from 2015 on, we've been giving an additional contribution to pay down the pension as quickly as possible.
Correct.
That is not required by law. That is given by this commission in an effort to shore up all the employees' pensions. When I got into office, the pension was funded to the tune of 51%. Okay, we made a commitment to pay more and more. We didn't take that money and do sidewalks or infrastructure projects or buy parks. We took that money and we invested it in the pension for years. Okay, last year, how much did we give?
It was $9.5 million.
Just over $9.5 million, yes.
Okay, and how much are we giving this year?
Just $7,669,770.
And I want to be clear, why have we taken almost a $2 million hit in the payment from last year?
So the difference between the 9.5 from last year and the 7.6 is the $1.87 million. That is the unfunded liability created from the pension COLA that was approved.
How much were we funded last year? What was the total funding before the COLA last year?
The total funding for last year?
The funded percentage.
Oh.
We ended the year, in '24, we ended the year with 25.5 unfunded and 74.5 funded.
Okay, so almost 75%.
Yes.
And where are we now after accepting the COLA?
So it's always 2 years behind. So actually last year, the percentage in the last valuation was 75.2, and now we're at 74.5.
So we went
we went
the
down.
opposite direction. So we're putting less money to shore up the pension, and we're going in the wrong direction. Okay. So I know I reiterate this all the time. I think it's critically important. Numbers don't lie. These are facts. You cannot play with people's retirements. You have to understand that this is your retirement, not ours retirement. The commission, we're not going to be getting this type of retirement. Okay. This belongs to the employees. We have to be very thoughtful. We have to be very careful in regards to the decisions that we make. Over the last 13 years, the commissions that I was part of made very, very tough decisions to fund the pensions more than we had to, when we could have used that money to buy trees, parks, sidewalks, new infrastructure, new cars, a litany of different things that we could have done with that money. But we put that money into the pension, which was a sound thing to do. I'm asking for my colleagues, hopefully next year, that we can continue overfunding the pension to take care of our employees and hopefully continue to add, not go back. Maybe we don't get to 9.5 next year, maybe we can go to 8. But as you said before, 3 years ago, property values rose by 12%. 2 years ago, they rose by 11%. Last year, they rose by 8%. And this year, they're rising by 5%. And a lot of us are talking that potentially next year we could be at 3%. That's what the forecasts are. So we're going in the wrong direction in regards to revenue. So just put it on the record for my colleagues. This is something to consider for next year, because at the end of the day, you either pay it now or you pay it later. Someone's got to pay for it.
Right, through the mayor.
Madam Vice Mayor.
And for some folks, this might be the first time that they're listening to this budget meeting via Zoom or otherwise. This is one of the major factors that when we're going out for grants and we're looking for appropriations from the state, that they look at. If we're fiscally responsible in funding these pensions and taking care of this responsibility, the likelihood of getting appropriations increases. So, thank you.
So the last slide, we always like to discuss the general fund reserve. So the city's reserve policy requires a 25% of the total operating budget, that we maintain a 25% of the total operating budget in reserve. And so the fiscal year 25 reserve is going to be $59,374,000. You can see in this graph how that relates to the budget each year. You'll also notice, I think that it's important to note that we were building the reserve. You can see back to 2013 and 2017, we had about $41 million. That is when Irma came, and then you can see that our available reserve, our funding towards the reserve decreased over those the next 3 years, 2020 and 2021 being COVID. But then you can see that shortly after COVID, we began to increase again, and we are at the full 25% reserve of $59 million.
So if I may, if you go back to 2013, what was the amount?
21, it was funded at $21 million. It was just under 10% of the operating budget.
So that's when I was elected. And if you run through the list, you'll see the amount of money that we have now here in reserves. And at that point, we were a AA rated city. And this is one of the reasons why we got a AAA rated city, which is a point of pride for not only the residents, the employees, and the business community. This is another critical item that we have to focus in on. I know it's very tempting to spend reserves, but at the end of the day, this is, again, a sense of pride for the city. I believe that our pension system should be funded in the 90s. I think that's what we all pay our credit card bills. And at the end of the day, if you're an employee and you've worked in the city, you want to make sure that when you retire, you're taken care of. This is a sense of pride for us. So we have to continue to be thoughtful. When we were reimbursed, could have spent that money on a litany of different needs in the city. There's many needs. There's constant needs. You know, I got a call this week from multiple people who told me the basketball courts in the youth center look amazing. By the way, congratulations to the Parks and Recs director and our ACM. I got multiple calls in the entire team from Parks and Recs. Amazing work for the basketball court. Everybody's ranting and raving. But you know how long they've been asking for that basketball court? Madam ACM, would you like to get up here and tell how long has Well, director, get up here. Director, get up here. I want to make a point. Get up here. Take a victory lap. Come on. Take a victory lap. You deserve it. How long have they been asking for, sir? How long have they been asking for a new basketball?
About 7 years.
And the issue's been money, right?
Yeah.
And we've been
funding.
budgeting for it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So people asked me, finally it was done. And I said, listen, there's a lot of needs. It got done. Staff did a wonderful job. All the credit goes to staff. But that is a prime example of we could have done it from reserves, right? We could have done it from what we saved up for, and we did it the right way. And again, yeah, the prices went up. The prices went up. But if we use that kind of concept or that kind of financing or budget strategy, we would have zero money in the bank. So I want to congratulate you and your team, the entire team, all the employees, procurement, everyone, parks, our engineering team, our public works team for everything that they do, our permitting team for everything they do, and how we budget over years to accomplish these goals.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
To the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just,
Yes, ma'am.
just want to point out, too, we have a factor this year that we haven't had in the past, and that is the funding of FEMA is not as robust or is somewhat questionable. So having our own reserves is going to be critical going forward. And as I have learned from our esteemed city manager, cash is king when we get our city restored, and we may have to wait. How many years, Paul? You would know best.
We're still closing out projects from Irma in
And that was
2017.
in 2017, so
2017.
we're not even fully reimbursed yet. And I think it was, 2 years ago, we went through a full presentation about the cost of borrowing money as opposed to utilizing reserve money, which is earning interest, and the total cost to residents over time would have been massive. So if anybody wants to look at that presentation, we do have it somewhere in the record to be able to show you what would happen if you would dip into your reserves to do capital projects or sidewalks or anything of that nature. It's going to cost us dearly.
Yes, I agree. That's a good point. It's not only about having those reserves that we don't, but it also allows us the flexibility should a storm come. If you think about the time that it takes to get a reimbursement, we had Hurricane Irma in 2017, and just 3 years later, we went through COVID. And so thank goodness that we were able to manage our budget and our expenses through COVID, but should we have two major disasters back to back, it would be difficult for the city to be able to function without having those reserves.
Another point that we haven't even looked at that I just thought about right now is I would love to see that presentation again, the one the vice mayor mentioned. Maybe you can send it to the commission, because if you, for example, got a floating interest rate from a credit line, like a home equity line, the home equity line goes up and down as interest rates go up and down. A business line goes up and down. I'm pretty sure you look at the rates today and what they were when we gave this discussion, it's probably about 2% higher. So the amount of money like the vice mayor was sending looks minuscule in comparison to what we'll be paying now in interest, which is a huge amount of money. And I see Madam Finance Director, correct? So thank God.
She's agreeing with you.
Thank God. Thank God we did not spend thank God we didn't, pull out credit line or an equity line and, spend from reserves to be able to do this, because it showed real fiscal discipline from the commission to budget and do things accordingly and come to consensus on that fact. And not, we came to consensus and we moved forward and we talked about it, but we moved forward on that issue and it pays dividends now. God willing, I hope to God that interest rates drop back to 4. That would be amazing. Amazing for the economy as a whole. So thank God that was done.
Through the mayor. Yeah, of course. Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner, go ahead.
No, I just want to say that, to put it simply too, it just is a very reassuring feeling to know that you can reach into your reserves when you need immediate assistance to be given to the residents in the midst of, or in the immediate aftermath of the storm, which is what we're dealing right now. We're still trying to close out from 2017, but we were able to do so without having to incur the additional burden of interest. And there's two things there that unfortunately you mentioned, Paula, whether it's storms or a pandemic. I'm not trying to bring any of that on us, but these are things that we cannot say will never appear again. It's likely you're going to see much more storm activity. Just yesterday, a lot of us here, I'm sure, I didn't get power back until in the wee hours of the morning, where the micro tornado seemed to hit right by my house. So prudency it probably reigns more today and is more important than ever.
Commissioner Fernandez?
And I had brought up that issue about using that money and
But I gave
taking
you-
out the.
but I
No, no,
just
that's what I'm
gave
saying.
you
That's what I'm
credit.
saying.
I just gave you
No,
credit.
No, and I appreciate it. That's what I was trying to get to. I was like, this was a conversation we were able to have as a commission and reach a consensus to move in a different direction. And I know we are receiving pressure from Tallahassee to go in a completely different direction. The governor and the CFO have been talking about municipalities needing to eliminate their reserves and start using that funding. And that's something that we will continue to get pressure from Tallahassee in the coming months and this legislative session. And it's something that as a municipality, we will need to be prepared to address because they will be pushing on that front. But I think yesterday's storm, like Commissioner Lara was saying, and I said earlier today, has really solidified the fact that from one moment to the next, we weren't even expecting a storm. It was just a standard afternoon storm. And Mr. Manager, do you have any idea what the cost in recovery from yesterday is going to be?
Not at this time,
I think your mic is off.
not at this time, Commissioner, but we did have substantial tree damage in many of the areas, and we had a gust up to 53 miles an hour.
Yeah, and it's going to be something that's going to cost us as a city to address all of the needs that come from it. We may have some permanent damage to trees that are going to have to be taken down because of the damage caused by the storm. We had infrastructure issues at the Granada Golf Course or tennis center. So there are these costs that come from literally out of the blue within, I mean, the worst of the storm was 3 minutes, and it caused severe damage. And if this was just a microburst or a small tornado, a hurricane could cause major damage for our city, and it's something that we need to be prepared for. So I think, we have been moving in the right direction. We had the conversation, and I think together we reached a consensus that I think we're all proud of today.
So what I said before, I want to commend the commissioner for bringing up the discussion, having a thorough and robust discussion. But at the end of the day, we came together and said, let's not do that. Let's move in a different direction. Let's find different options. Let's use the budget process. Let's figure out ways to deliver. We have a lot of needs here, a huge amount of needs. But right now, I'm telling you, we have to be as prudent as possible. And it's very concerning, like what Commissioner Fernandez said. There's a lot of things that I agree with the governor on, and the state and the Senate and the House, but not having reserves and spending reserves to meet today's needs when we can budget moving over a 2, 3, 4, 5-year window, to me I believe, as a business owner, is not the smartest thing to do. Yeah. And I'll give you an example, and it's very simple. Would you liquidate all your savings in a matter of a week to meet your needs today and buy what you want today?
No.
No. So it's the same situation. It's the same. You don't know what happens tomorrow. And this is a simple, ridiculous statement. But at the end of the day, I respect the governor. We all respect the governor and our leaders at the state level. But we can't spend our reserves. This is a point where, again, a point of pride for the city, and it was clearly visible in our last hurricane. Madam Vice Mayor.
So what I want to add is two things, and where we can come together is, my conversations with the state representatives have indicated a willingness to look at this homestead exemption issue. As I had suggested, let's start from the bottom up, those who need the most. If you follow the state's example of increasing reserves, I think it would be prudent for us to note that they're increasing reserves. We have to also follow the same prudent policy because we can't spend tomorrow's money today. And then we can put our heads together. The proposal I had is just an idea. It's a concept. We can massage it. We can move forward with it. This is the one where if across the board there's $50,000 homestead exemption for the people that need it the most, they have an income requirement, they're caregivers, they're blind, people that are not getting that $50,000 homestead exemption for being fully disabled, we'll save them $819.10 per year. This will be a way to open up the topic. I did make copies in case you wanted one for food for thought for later, and we can continue our conversations with the state legislators as the year goes on. But thank you.
Thank you. Madam Director.
there's no other discussion, that is the last slide of my presentation. We are here today to adopt the tentative millage on first hearing, and that is the first action that the city attorney will read into the record for you. And then there's an ordinance also to adopt our annual budget, and so that is the second item that the city attorney will read in for you. Part of what she will read into the record is that the proposed millage rate of 5.559, on which this budget is based on, is a 6.5% increase over the rollback millage rate of 5.1951.
I will read the first ordinance. It's an ordinance providing for the levy of taxes for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2025 and ending September 30, 2026, fixing the rate of such levy, providing for the segregation and the application of the proceeds of such levy, providing for the separability of the provisions hereof, and providing that this ordinance shall become effective October 1st, 2025. Be it ordained by the Commission of the City of Coral Gables, Section 1, that in compliance with the Constitution and laws of the State of Florida as now written, taxation is hereby levied upon all real and personal property within the present corporate limits of the City of Coral Gables for tax year 2025, a tax of 5.5590 mils, which is a 6.5% increase over the rolled back rate of 5.1951. All proceeds of the collection of this levy to be recorded into the general fund of the city and shall be reserved therein and disbursed, transferred therefrom for the sole and express purpose of paying the necessary operating and capital expenditures of the City of Coral Gables, its departments, offices, and properties for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026.
I'll move it.
Just as a point of order, I think we're supposed to do number 2 first, which is public hearing, right? We skipped 2.
No, we have to adopt the millage before we can adopt the budget.
Right, but isn't 2 the public hearing for public comment?
Oh, I think after you do your motion.
Yeah, we do the motion, then I'm
Okay.
gonna ask for public comment. So we have,
Second.
okay. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Maria Cruz?
Like I've said many times, it's Mrs. Maria Cruz, 1447 Miller Road. Because we are hearing the winter is coming, I took the time to request the salaries for the last fiscal year, 2024, for the actual calendar year 2024. And I took the time to look at from the highest paid to a lower pay. And then I did some research about executives that really get paid a lot for extra stuff. And some of you may be surprised to hear that we have an employee, well, actually, I don't know whether he's an employee or a contractor, that makes more than anybody else in this city, $357,000, because he operates the tennis. He's the professional tennis operations manager, 357 grand. I hope when his contract is renegotiated that we can do a little better than that. We also have, took the time to look at executives. We have an executive that makes in extra stuff, and what I mean extra means loyalty, auto allowance, exceptional work performance on top of the regular salary, $34,000 on top of the top regular salary. Then there's one that makes $27,000, and the lowest one is $17,000. We have employees in this city that make $20-some thousand a year. We have some that make 30-something, and yet we have executives that get extra on top of their big salary, because that's what executives get in this city. On top of the big salary, they make more than the regular salary for those people. I think that's shameful. I think we need to start thinking about Executives, that's the word, executives are supposed to be available 24/7, and executives are supposed to do extra stuff. That's why they get the big bucks. And paying an executive $37,000, $34,000 extra for doing something extra is really, really, really shameful when you have people that make in the 20s.
Tom Wells.
Good evening.
I'll be really fast and we can get out of this refrigerator as fast as possible. I did want to compliment Vice Mayor Anderson on item F1 from the September 10th, 2024 meeting last year about the work you went through, you and Mayor Lago, to save $856,000 through a thoughtful analysis of what expenses you could cut, like the drone show, for example. So I just want to I want to thank you for that, and to the extent that we can have that same review in this budget process, thanks again.
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second?
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, I will not be supporting this millage rate. This has been a flat millage rate for the past 10 years, and that says a lot. That is great, but I do believe that we could do better. I presented a 4-year phase. It was very modest. It was responsible, and I am sticking to that. My phase plan delivered what many others offered, and I believe residents deserve that relief now.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second?
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Castro,
No.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Just to make a quick comment, I have really been troubled by this decision all week, just trying to make a decision on which direction to move. Today, I will be supportive of this measure, but I do want to find ways to provide additional relief to residents in the road ahead. I know we're already working on the garbage fee. I also want to consider if we can maybe eliminate the fire fee that we currently charge moving forward as additional relief, because that will provide a very similar financial relief to what Commissioner Castro is proposing, and it will be pretty much equal to every property owner. I just want to make sure when Tallahassee comes knocking, we can say, we did better for our residents. We found a solution that works for our city, yet we're still providing the services that our residents deserve and that they expect from our city. Residents move into Coral Gables not expecting the services that they're getting in another municipality. They move to Coral Gables because it is Coral Gables, because we provide the top-notch service, because we have the staff available to address incidents right at a moment's notice, like we did yesterday. And I think that's the service that we need to provide. I'd like to have a conversation with the manager in the next few days and with our finance team on how we can make that and deliver as soon as possible. So I will be a yes today, but I do want to find a quick turnaround on relief that we can provide our residents.
Commissioner Lara.
Right, so real brief comment. Of course, I'm supportive of the motion, and to provide relief for the residents is something that I think I've delivered along with my colleagues when we decided to take our own salaries, which we ran on, knowing what it was, and on the very first meeting that we had an opportunity, we cut it in half. So it's important to look at the budget and find what we feel is either fat expenditure that can be reduced, never affecting the services, never reducing the support to the most vital members of our team. But with respect to taking as they say, a swipe at our own personal pockets, right, is probably one of the very first and most symbolic and impactful ways that you can show that we really mean what we say and we say what we mean. So I'm supportive of the hyper focus on budget line items, and but it is not fiscally prudent. It is not anything more than, at best, optics to propose a millage rate reduction when no real benefit has been identified, and when we have to deal with rising costs and reducing and declining revenue. So on that basis, yes.
Through the mayor.
Mayor Lago.
So a few things. I will be supporting and will be setting the millage. I ran on cutting my own salary. I voted against raising it. I cut it by exactly the amount it was raised. I think it was disrespectful to employees, the way that it was handled, the way the raise was handled. I cut the car allowance. I cut the personal expenditure account. I also cut, and correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Director, $30,000 from my own personal staff with the two new hires that we have. And I also cut $20,000 from the league, from the Mayor's League, as it's something that is not needed. I will not be attending that event this year. We also have done everything we can to find ways to save money. But we have needs in regards to infrastructure. I've been all in favor of cutting taxes, and I am in favor of cutting taxes. Again, when I proposed to cut taxes, our revenue was 11 and 12%. That's what the increases in property values were. And we did not have a COLA of almost $2 million a year, and a litany of other costs associated that are clearly detailed in the memo that I have a copy here if anybody would like. These are costs that have a tail for the next 10 years. If I could, like we did with with our own raises, I would try my best to get rid of that COLA also. Did staff deem it appropriate for that COLA to be approved? Yes or no?
For the COLA for the retirees?
Yes.
Our recommendation was not to approve it.
Not to approve it. Okay. That was jammed down the throat of this city by Melissa Castro. And to me, that's a lack of real understanding how the way that budgets work and the way that we have to be fiduciaries on behalf of the community. So to me, we can grandstand and try to get elected on issues that I tried to lower your taxes by $13. Or when we had revenues of 12 and 11%, we said no to lowering taxes because it was a penance. It was nothing. It was meager. It was peanuts. I can play the video that I played again on Wednesday if we'd like to see it again for the record. So the bottom line is this. This is the right millage rate. I wish you could lower it, and I agree with Commissioner Fernandez. We should lower it when we can control our expenses, which have gone up. Have our expenses gone up this year, yes or no?
Yes, they have.
Has our revenue gone up or down?
It's increased, but less than in prior years.
Yes, significantly, correct?
Significantly, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I just want to put things on
significantly
the,
less,
I just want to
yes.
put things on the record for the Gazette and for Politico Cortadito and all the pay-for-play bloggers who, you know, somehow, some way are not able to figure things out. So as a non-strong mayor, Mr. Clerk, for the record, will you please play the video? Thank you.
Will cable TV please play the video the mayor requested?
The quality of life of the residents by removing so many projects. I mean, you have to weigh your balances. I think it's simple math. Just look at the numbers. I think it's very simple. You weigh, how much is a resident going to receive? That's what's important. How much are they going to receive in return for, let's say, max 10%? The medium householder would receive $287. What does those $287 mean? That means that we're gonna not have to either do sidewalk repairs, or we're gonna have to choose between if we want Burger Bob or not. And it's not one, it's multiple things. Where are we gonna take the money out from? Or have we found extra money? Mayor.
Whenever you're done, I'll answer you. I just want to interrupt.
Okay, traffic calming, it's like 5 years, people are on the list. We're talking about $200, $300 max and returning for lowering the millage rate. It doesn't make any sense in particular to me. It almost sounds like self-sabotage. I'm very, very worried that if we do this change, it's gonna really affect the quality of life of the residents. So what you're trying to say is that we're gonna, practically if the numbers that I gave in my town hall was at 2%, and now you're proposing a 1%, so we're gonna cut half of the services the director said that were going to be cut, or jeopardized, or compromised. For what? For a $30 savings to the medium household homesteaded resident? I mean, I think that if somebody was in the town hall and you read the room and the responses that they were giving, it was very clear. People live in Coral Gables for their services, and they should not be compromised for $30. Some people even stood up, and some residents even stood up and said, no, I'm saving $18. Well, that $18 or the 1% is going to be $9. So congratulations. If the mayor has been working here for 12 years, he should know that we run a very tight budget, okay? And I remember always him saying, when I first got elected, find me the money. What happened to that? What happened to find me the money? Because you're trying to jeopardize, I would say, the city at this point. How are you not going to compromise city services? How is that a scare tactic? When I brought up numbers in specific with the services that were going to be reduced. As backup, I brought directors to explain explicitly what was going to be reduced. Those are not scare tactics, those are facts.
All right, so it's a lot to digest. What you've seen there is 2 years of rhetoric and constant fighting by Commissioner Castro when revenue was up 12% and 11%, correct? Just want to make sure I'm on the record here. I don't want to be misleading. When revenue was up significant, I tried to lower taxes, correct?
Yes.
I brought it before the commission. I was even willing to negotiate down to 1% reduction in taxes, which would have been $30-something at that point. As you can see, it was something that she was unwilling to do or even entertain. She said it would hurt services and cut costs, and it was a meager, meager amount. So if you're not willing to do it when you're making 12, 11, and 8%, but you're willing to do it when you drop down to 5%, and now you've jammed all these additional costs as per my memo here, the biggest one being the COLA, and the second one being almost $10 million in additional employees that we've hired, costing the city almost $30 million over 10 years. Along with raising your salary, giving yourself an expense account, and having a car allowance, in the words of the commissioner here, so she could have 2 Maseratis, not a Lamborghini, Mr. Lara. Understand that, okay? So the point is simple. Political season has already started. What we're doing today is, again, showing what is responsible governance and not lowering the millage rate $13 so you can go buy a cup of coffee and pastry. If you had caught me and you had not given a COLA, which is going to cost the city $20 million over 10 years, or hired all his employees as the vice mayor, and I begged you not to do, I would be more than willing to lower taxes this year because we would have revenue, which increased, and costs that have not increased as exorbitantly as they have as a result of the decisions you made. So the good thing is that these videos are there in perpetuity to show our attempts to do things the right way and not do things in a way that's politically motivated, like hiring Amos Rojas here in the middle of a commission meeting because you witnessed his resume through LinkedIn. So, Mr. Clerk, my vote is a yes on that item, and thank you very much.
Through the mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
let me go ahead and respond to your wonderful little speech here. Let's go ahead and address those videos that he just put on there. The proposal last year was very different from the proposal I proposed this year. The proposal last year that was built by the finance department and with suggestions of both of my colleagues right here to my left and to my right were suggestions that were going to be cutting services. So this time around, what I did, and I'm not making this up, this is coming from the city. It was not prudent. I had every director come up there and explain exactly what was going to be cut. Now, I was never in acceptance of lowering the millage rate for those exact reasons. It was not responsible. It didn't match up, it didn't balance. So this year around, since all of my colleagues here, not all, most of them, wanted to lower the millage rate, I wanted to figure it out. And I wanted to figure it out in a way that it would not cut services. And I did figure it out. And I did, and I came up with a phased approach that was extremely responsible, prudent, that they just don't want to vote on because they weren't serious about lowering the millage the whole time. So that's the truth behind that. You cannot compare apples and oranges. Both situations are completely different. We're not cutting services this year. I came up with a perfect plan to deliver on the promises some of these elected officials made. Number two, not done, but number two, let's talk about the COLA. The settlement was a justice for those retirees that never had a COLA. It was pennies compared to $33 million we spent annually on pensions, okay? I don't know if you guys remember, I know Commissioner Lara wasn't here, but if he would have seen what was happening here year after year, it was terrifying. When it came to the retirees, a lot of them were dying. They were never getting the COLA. This was a settlement agreement, and it was due. Why did I agree on that? Because we were already having a problem with vacancies, with morale. And I thought at that point, and I still think, and I stand by it, okay? That was a one-time payment. And I think that we needed to hire morale. We were having high vacancy in police officers, and those people that sacrificed their lives for us, for all the years they did, it was firefighters and police officers, they deserve, when they're going through a hard time, a very hard time, because if I bring back those videos, it is heartbreaking what we were seeing, okay? And we were seeing it year after year. The commission came into a decision to finally give that to them. It lowered, the contribution to that COLA was $1.8 million. It lowered the pension contribution by 1% point something. Am I right or am I wrong?
So
From 75 point something to 74.5.
right, the decision that was made to grant the retiree COLA was $1.8 million per year for the next 10 years. So an impact of about 18 million, just under $19 million over the 10 years. And it's a recurring COLA that's being given to the retirees.
Yes, but it's a one-time settlement. It was a one-time settlement. After that is, I'm sorry, I'm not done, but thank you. It was a one-time settlement, right? We're paying it off, but it's not something that we're going to continue after the 10 years after it's paid off.
So it's not a one-time payment. It is a payment every year for 10 years.
That's what I just said.
Yes, so it will be so it was an increase to the unfunded liability, and then, yes, paying it off, but over 10 years. So one-time payments are usually one time, but this is for 10 years,
What
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a one-time payment of 1.8, it's a one-time settlement.
But it's not it's not really a settlement. It's
Give me 1 second.
it's
Let me
COLA.
finish all my points, and then we'll go back to that.
So it's not a settlement, it was just a granted COLA.
Okay, now, the other one that my colleagues keep on saying that, you know, we gave relief to the residents because we cut our salaries. Tell me how we gave relief to the residents and how they are seeing the relief by lowering their taxes by cutting our salaries.
You want me to respond to you?
No, I'm talking to Paula, but I appreciate you having an intent to respond.
So the decrease in expenditures in the Commissioner's office allows our office to be able to redirect those funds to fund other items in the city that otherwise would not be funded or would require additional revenue to
But
fund.
does it directly give relief to residents?
The residents don't see a decrease in what they pay, but it redistributes the expenditure.
Exactly. Okay, so the other question is, how do we give relief to residents if it's not cutting the millage?
A garbage fee.
Cutting
No.
fees can be-
Okay, how do we lower taxes if it is not lowering the millage?
So property taxes are the taxes that the residents pay, so the millage rate would be the only way to reduce
Okay, so
property
if,
taxes.
So if we are promising to lower taxes, which is the only way to lower taxes? By cutting the millage.
I don't think anybody is disagreeing that the only way to lower property taxes is by cutting the millage. I think that the discussion is that there are other reliefs that the residents receive, whereas by funding more traffic calming, you are relieving the need of traffic calming in other areas. And so by redistributing those expenses to fund infrastructure or repairs to sidewalk as opposed to investing them. So similar to what we did in 2023 when we received a significant increase in the property taxes and the commission with the work of staff came up with a plan to not use those additional revenues towards building up the operating budget, but to put it into capital and have a safeguard in capital. So I think that is the discussion.
My direct question is to you. I promise to you that I am going to lower your taxes. Tell me how I'm going to do that. The only way I'm going to do that, how is it? Tell me.
Lower property taxes, you have to lower the millage, or the
Okay,
property
so
value has to decrease.
to be able to, deliver your promise, right, you have to lower the millage to lower taxes, right? Now, we could save a little ways here and there, and we could provide better services. But the only way to lower taxes, as some of these elected officials have promised, is to lower the millage. Right now, at this moment, I was the only elected official who voted to go ahead and lower the millage and did not agree to leave the millage the same. And hence, I never promised to lower the millage. But some of these elected officials did, and I just want to put that on the record.
Through the mayor.
Madam Vice Mayor, first off, now that we're done with the Instagram reel for next week, let's talk about this, because I just feel like I just lost like 50 brain cells right now.
Yeah.
I can never get this back. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, look, services. Did I ever say I was gonna cut services when I said that I was gonna cut the taxes? Like services, we're gonna cut services?
I could bring the paper
Hey,
in. Where all the
I'm
services
asking
are
you,
gonna
I'm
get
asking
cut.
you, hey, look, slow down. You wanna hide from what a COLA is. The COLA is for past employees, it's not for current employees, it's for past employees. It puts a $2 million debt almost on the city a year for the next 10 years. You need to understand, this is not gonna help you with vacancies. It was not due, the commission could have voted against it. We had every right to do it, and it is not a one-time payment, like the commissioner did not know. 10 years, okay? Salary cuts, the confusion about how this works, and if you cut your salary and you do this, that goes back into the general fund so that our budget and our finance department can basically talk to, for example, Dina may have a need, our parks department may have a need. Maybe our finance department needs a new, copy machine, let's just say, or whatever you may need. So if I don't spend $30,000 in the mayor's office or $20,000 to go to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, that money can be used for something else. Can we all agree on that? So you're being frugal, you're being thoughtful, you're cutting expenses in an effort to help the city. Help the city. If your police officers say, hey, I need this, or your firefighters say, I need that, you can take that money, instead of spending it on salaries in the commission, which was a few $100,000, and you can redirect that money into something else. It is not a tax cut. Okay? Now, for the record, we lowered the garbage fee. Commissioner Fernandez brought that up, and thank God we were able to address that issue and we did something across the board that helped people, with some sort of relief. The only person that didn't vote for that was Commissioner Castro. So that was a significant relief, a few $100s a year for members of our community. It was not a cup of coffee and a croqueta at Vicky's, okay? So you can call it what it is. You can hide behind lowering taxes, and I'm the only one lowering taxes, but at the end of the day, you put $30 million of debt on this city, which is, if anybody wants a copy, I made some extra copies here for everybody here, so they can read it. If not, you can read it online. I put it on where all my memos are. Shows a lack of real understanding of finance, a real understanding of real responsibility here in the city. Madam Vice Mayor, then Commissioner Fernandez.
Okay, and I just wanted to thank Commissioner Fernandez for being the third vote that was necessary to give the reduction in the garbage fees, because otherwise it wouldn't have happened.
Yep.
You know, you went from a $200 reduction for every single homeowner on properties to $250 reduction. And I believe that the bottom-up approach, and I think we can help make this difference in Tallahassee, helping out the folks that when you go to knock doors on Country Club Prado and you meet the 85-year-old woman taking care of the 110-year-old woman, and the other folks that are caregivers for folks that are just struggling and have been here for a very long time, it resonates. But I'm going to revisit the resolution that I brought in an effort to strike an olive branch, mainly for the purpose of trying to reduce the number of new positions in areas where we really didn't need new positions. 7 positions. 7 of the ones that it was a in-between measure. What would have been the cost impact to the city over a period of 10 years? 7 positions over a period of 10 years cost us $3.7 to $3.8 million. $3.7 to $3.8 million. That was $372,000, $887 in 1 year. It multiplies over a 10-year period when you count in the increases that naturally happen. The massive expansion of number of positions because you have pressure from a union representative to add positions in an area where the number of homes haven't increased, the number of services haven't increased, and there hasn't been a thorough vetting as to whether outsourcing was a better source or a way to deal with this or not. That was the reason why I brought the resolution. It was entitled, "A Resolution of the City Commission Promoting Fiscal Resilience and Directing the City Manager to Include in a Proposed Budget for Fiscal Year 2024 through 2025 certain revisions from the budget estimate, including allocating certain funding towards the assessment, drawings, and plans for structural repairs at City Hall." So the thrust of that was that reduction as well. I understand, and I just got an update that the county is not giving the $100 check this year. It's not in the budget so far. So there's 0 in the county's budget. You know, it's a tight year. It's a good year to be fiscally prudent. We have some time between this budget vote and the next budget vote to examine where we can tighten our belt a little more, where we can improve services. And some services we may have to improve over time, such as the way we pick up garbage could possibly be more efficient if we invest in better equipment, if we go to biochar, different ways we can overall get this ballooning expense year after year after year that's exponentially increasing to be reduced. Paula, how much are we subsidizing the garbage fee right now in total dollars?
So the fiscal 26 proposed budget, we will be subsidizing $8.9 million or 59% of the operations budget.
That's crazy money.
We can't continue to do that. We need to improve our efficiency. So that's where I think we can find some more savings. And in between now and then, we can look for a way to help those who need it the most.
And I think our ACM is doing a great job in trying to find different ways where we can find to not just innovative ways of doing it, but also ways that we can fine tune the process. I know that we'll soon have a new director in that operation as well. Maybe we can have some new ideas coming from outside. Technology is improving every single day, and there's new ways of doing things. And I think what manager and I have talked about this since I first came out to the commission is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to figure out what wheel somebody else is using that we can just employ here and find a way to do it. And there's opportunities that may be coming up where we can also provide services for other municipalities, and that in that way alleviate some of our costs as well. But that is something that does have a direct impact on our residents. And I think something that, we as a commission did unanimously was also provide the Senior Relief Grant Program and the Disabled Veterans Relief Grant Program, which provides a check to those people who most need it. And that was an immediate effect. Staff was incredibly helpful in trying to find the funding to get it done using prior year funding. And like I said, last commission meeting, my intent is to bring that back up at the September 25th commission meeting so that we can approve that once again and provide that relief to the residents who most need it immediately. And I appreciate that we were able to do that as a commission unanimously in the past to ensure that those people who most needed it were getting that check in the mail. And trust me, I know that I received the phone calls from people who had received that check in the mail and how helpful it was to them. I know staff also received calls because they weren't sure why they were getting a check. But it's always good when you do receive that additional help. I just would like to move on to vote on the budget.
I agree.
Ready to move forward?
Yes, Mayor, I'll read the next item in, which is an ordinance adopting the annual budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2025 and ending September 30th, 2026, providing for the separability of the provisions hereof and providing that this ordinance shall become effective October 1st, 2025. Whereas the city manager prepared and on July 1st, 2025 submitted to the commission a budget estimate of the revenues and expenditures of all city departments, divisions, offices, and properties for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2025, and copies of such estimate have been made available for public viewing at the Coral Gables Library and the office of the city clerk. And whereas the budget estimate submitted to the commission on July 1st, 2025 in the amount of $312,552,038 has been revised by the city manager to include revenue and expenditure increases in the amount of $1,021,456, bringing the total budget amount to $313,573,494, and that the following summary of estimated revenues and expenditures for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2025 and ending September 30th, 2026 is hereby agreed upon and adopted along with the supporting data relating thereto on file with the Finance Department of the City of Coral Gables as the official 2025-2026 budget of the City of Coral Gables.
Move it.
I have to, if you'll indulge me, there's some other items I have to read into the record. Just give me a,
I'm sorry.
it's okay.
You paused.
Total operating revenues, $281,212,083. Total transfers from reserves, $32,361,411. Total revenues, $313,573,494. Estimated expenditures for all operating departments, capital and debt service. Total operating expense, $245,748,007. Capital projects, $53,021,235. Total debt service appropriation, $10,582,190. Total expenditures, $313,573,494.
Now I'll move it.
Second. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor, we already did public comment.
All right. We have a motion and a second?
Could I make a request? What I would like to see between first and second reading is for staff to review the proposal that Commissioner Castro made on potential cuts. And I would like a memo, if you can, Mr. Manager, including the directors of those departments. If they're okay with these changes, I would like to see us restructure the budget to use those funds for other resident needs that we may have, if possible.
Mr. Manager?
I don't know if you understood the request. Okay. Yeah, your microphone.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just want to remind the Commissioner why we, of the Commission, why we want to maintain the 5.559 budget. We have a tremendous amount of infrastructure coming up. We have 2 parking garages, Garage 1 and 4, that are operational, obsolete, and in distress. It's about $60 to $70 million. We had City Hall, which needs repair desperately. It's $25 to $30 million. We've got Phillips Park that we're currently spending $3.9 million. We have the water tower that we're looking at $1.8 million. We've got Venetia Pool that needs a phase 2 restoration. And we've got the Coral Gables Country Club that needs quite a bit of repair and money to get that facility going, probably in the neighborhood of $5 to $7 million. So there is a lot of infrastructure that we are doing. We also want to maintain, I think, certainly our city reserve. One of the things that worked extremely well in Irma was that we had cash. We didn't have to go to the bank. We were able to pay quickly, and that gave us the ability to get the trucks and the trucking that we needed, and we were able to maintain our rates, and we were able to recover over 90%, almost 95% of recovery through FEMA. We have the lowest millage rate of any full-service city by far. Last year, we cut our garbage fees to a tune of $3.6 million. That's almost a 3% cut in the millage rate if we were to apply it from that perspective. That's a reoccurring cost. That cost is every year. The COLA of $1.9 million, that's also a 10-year cost. We have additional positions, and we are, from a technical perspective, we are one of the top 5 smart cities in the country. Amazing for our size. So we are functioning extremely well. We're being highly efficient, but we have a lot of needs, and so we are very, very adamant about maintaining our 5.559% millage rate.
So if I just want to add just a few things that I'd like for consideration between the first and second reading also. We removed the $200,000 that we budget every single year for paver corrections across the crosswalks on Miracle Mile. We usually have like an allowance number, correct?
So,
So the mayor, Mayor, we're looking at different options right now.
Okay.
The deputy city manager is looking into that.
So that's another opportunity to save about $200,000 a year and be able to reapply that money to something else in the budget. And I have an idea of where we can apply it if my colleagues in the commission agree. Do we have a land acquisition amount this year, or
we do, and
or did you slash me again this year?
we have a land acquisition, but the entire amount is coming from impact fees that are restricted to the use for land acquisition.
Not
And
real,
so there is
so it's
no
not real.
amount,
It's not real.
there is no amount that I can take from that would be redirected to something else.
So you slash me. It's
I
okay.
already slashed you.
Okay, that's the only thing I ever have
Your
in the budget.
permission, I already
I know,
slashed
okay.
your
All right,
request.
so I have 3 things that I want you to please consider, okay, for the next commission meeting, for the final budget hearing, okay? Number 1, I want to make sure we have PFAL funding. We're getting a lot of calls on PFAL funding, okay? So I know it's a nominal amount, it's not a lot, but I want to make sure we have PFAL funding to address catching the PFALs alive and taking them to a sanctuary. It's only getting worse. By the way, we're having an issue with roosters too around University of Miami. They're seeing a lot of roosters in the area. You saw, the DCM saw some roosters with me the other day on a site visit. He was actually astounded that there's a lot of roosters. Again, if you're fine with roosters, if the commission's fine with roosters, fine with me, but I'm getting calls from residents, and I know you too.
One of our increases this year is for additional funding for roosters. I will speak with them to see if they have enough for PFAL as well.
I want to make sure, and I want to go over this with the manager and each one of my colleagues go over, I want to make sure the flagler section is addressed.
Yeah.
We put
Please.
additional funding to fund the full design of that project for next fiscal year.
Okay, but I want to make sure we're in good shape. We also have traffic calming. We have other issues that we have to address there, okay? And the final issue that I want to address, okay, this is an important one that we're faced with, and other municipalities have made a move, and now the ball is in the city of Coral Gables court. So the underline is a first-class park and trail running 3 miles through the city of Coral Gables. In our portion of the underline, we will have pickleball, basketball, and outdoor gym, hundreds of thousands of native plants and trees contributing to tree canopy, stormwater management and retention systems, public art, and numerous areas to gather, connect on foot, bike, or connecting to mass transit. Plus, we will have small and large dog parks, which is already done, and you can drive by it. It's going to open any moment. I sponsored the legislation to contribute $7 million to capital from the City of Coral Gables park and mobility fees. Now that segments are opening in Coral Gables starting next year, I would like for the city to protect our investment by also contributing to O&M. Next year, our contribution, if my colleagues agree, would be $180,000. By the way, City of Miami and City of South Miami are already committed to contributing O&M. The underline is a public-private partnership with funding from Miami-Dade County. The cities of Coral Gables, Miami and South Miami, the state of Florida, and the federal government, plus numerous private sources. In the spirit of public-private partnership, the city of Miami has committed to contributing $1.5 million annually. South Miami, $300,000 annually, and our prorated share is about $180,000. These amounts are matches to a county contribution of over $3.5 million, and Friends of the Underline nearly $3 million for FY26. I would ask you to please speak with the manager. This is something that I did not want to do. I talked to the manager because we're giving a significant amount of money in regards to contributions, but there are significant shortfalls. The last thing I want is a treasure like this that is built in our backyard that increases property value, makes it more sustainable, to fall into disrepair. We got to offer the necessary security as people use it, and this is something that's important. I'd like to see when we talk about cutting that this could be an opportunity to potentially do something great. Mr. Manager.
We are discussing these items now. I think I'll have some more information for what's required this year and what would be required from thereafter.
And if I may, an idea, okay? I know that I drafted the parks contribution fund that we have. It's going to be just as painful as we did with the Whiteway lights, but I think the Whiteway lights were a good investment. When we took money from the arts bucket, which I cherish, I think it was like $2.5 to $3 million. Maybe we can use a portion, not all of it, but a portion of our contribution can come from that parks bucket. So it doesn't come from the general fund, it comes from permit fees. And I tell you that again, it hurts me because I think that's a critically important revenue generator that we've used to buy parks in the residential neighborhoods. To the tune that we just bought one the other day for $3 million. That is, all the employees said it was critically important. Thank you again for your vote on that. Just think about it. Think about it. We're kind of behind the 8 ball. Miami's already in, South Miami's already in. We got to think about things. I think it's important that we find a way to fund this. So just leaving it out there, I think this is going to be a jewel in our backyard. And I think that we have to step up and figure out a way because there are some shortfalls in regards to funding for O&M, and I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Yes, ma'am.
Couple closing comments.
And if, by the way, it pains me to bring this to you. Like, I don't want to bring this to you.
No,
The
I
last thing
know.
wanna do is bring this to you.
And you know, the county having taken the RTZ is deprived of those park impact fees. So, you know, the funding is becoming less, folks.
Yep.
If you listen to the residents, I mean, really listen to the residents, the overwhelming sentiment was, let's maintain our services, let's maintain our value, let's not lower the millage rate. Folks they want their sidewalks repaired. Folks want the services that they expect out of Coral Gables, and they want them to continue to improve. And each and every one of us have received emails. Please support the underline. It's an expensive amenity, but it's something that the residents want. They don't want cuts in the rifle program. They don't want cuts in these necessary things that we need, or the roof matrix. Pay me now, or you pay me a lot more later to repair the damage that happens when you don't repair a roof on time. So, you know, these are decisions, you know, and some of the words that I've heard from folks, you know, leadership sometimes takes the willingness to make the tough decision so that when you're planning in the future, I mean, I'll be retired, in as much as I'm much older than the rest of you, I know that, yeah, I know you're close behind me. But you've got your kids, you got your kids in this neighborhood as well. Mine are gone, okay? So it's a future investment.
I'm blocks away from it, literally. I'm a walking distance to it.
Yeah, it's an investment in our future that will benefit our children, our grandchildren, and the community as a whole. It'll bring up the property values. It'll make it easier for people to enjoy this place, to live, work, and play. Listen to the residents, because if you don't, and I mean, I went to the town hall meeting, and there was no one clamoring there except for one person for lowering the millage rate.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Clerk?
Commissioner Castro?
I think we need to tighten our belts a little bit. I want to go ahead and consider what Commissioner Fernandez was proposing. I think especially when it comes to the drone show, we don't have to put in $65,000 when we spent $50,000 last year. I think we could be a little more prudent on that. And there's the employee barbecue, it's like 2,000. I think we, for public works, we could probably do something like 500 for that department. There's little places where we could tighten our budget. So my vote right now would be no.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Lara?
I know it's kind of late in the day, but I have a question for you, Commissioner Castro. When you are making reference to reducing the amount spent on the drone show, for example, or other things that you say are small things that we should nitpick or look at or scrutinize, if I understand you correctly, none of that would be, the way you describe it, a tax savings then to the residents?
No, through the mayor? Yeah. No, it wouldn't, but we can allocate that money to maybe sidewalks, which is the most, like, that's what residents call me the most about.
Right, it's through the mayor.
Yes.
So now that I understand you clearer. So as expenses rise, not incurring certain expenses allows you to address expenses as they rise and not have to ask for more taxes from the residents. So if we don't spend as much on salaries, to say like we did, we voted for a reversal of what you voted for, of doubling your salary, while that's not a lowering of taxes, that prevents the increase of taxes because we're using the money saved for things that we have to pay for, right?
Through the mayor?
No, not yet. So that's a very good point. I'm happy that you were able to explain it to us. I failed miserably before. The point is that when she asked about, well, what is the mayor lowering the salaries of his employees by 30,000 or not going to the commission of the mayor's council, excuse me, not the mayor's council, but the U.S. Conference of Mayors saving $20,000. Well, what does that mean? What does that matter? That money, like Commissioner Lara says, goes back into the general fund and is reallocated for needs. So it's very simple, very, very simple. But I'm happy that you wanted to reemphasize it and explain it maybe in a way that she could understand it when I wasn't able to explain to her.
And to finish the point, because I know that you're going to respond, Commissioner, just to finish my point. So that is hopefully something I cleared up because I was confused a little bit. But and also with respect to promises made, I hate to say it again, but clearly it's re-election season that's open because you keep referring to promises made during an election you did not run in. But I really wish you would have joined in when I and my two other colleagues that ran in the last election actually ran on the point of reducing salaries, ran on eliminating, the first time ever, a sitting commissioner awarded themselves a car allowance in 100 years, voted for the reduction of the increase given to yourselves on business expenses. If that's a promise that you didn't make, that you want to deliver on because I made it, I wish you would have on May 6th of this year.
Through the mayor?
Yes.
You know, everything you were saying makes 100% sense, and I agree with it. But you see, those are two different things. Let's not confuse people and put lowering taxes with cutting waste, because cutting waste does not equal lowering taxes. Okay? I agree with your method, Don't put your guard up. I agree with your method. That's the way we need to go. Cutting waste. That's what I proposed with my proposal as well. But lowering taxes is lowering the millage, which is very different. I do appreciate cutting waste, though. I think you're right on point there. But let's not confuse people by putting both of those two things together.
Through the mayor?
Yeah, but can I ask you a question, and maybe not to her, but maybe to somebody on the commission who will give me an answer, a straight answer. So why wouldn't we lower taxes when we had revenues of increases of 12 and 11%? Why do we choose to lower taxes when costs have skyrocketed as a result of, my memo clearly indicates it, and where revenues are going up 5% and next year they're going to go up 3%? Why would you do that? But it's simple, fundamental business sense. If your revenue goes down and your costs are going up, you have to be as careful as possible. It's not the time to give yourself raises or lower taxes. It's a time to be as careful as possible because, again, it's only getting rockier. I think, Madam Vice Mayor, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I did. I wanted to cover the fact that, budgeted expenses are not the same as money spent. Because what happens is you might budget $65,000 for a drone show, and that's what the manager had before. But because he, very dutifully negotiates each and every single contract, we're able to save the money, and the money goes back into capital improvements, which goes back to sidewalks, which goes back to road repaving and all of these things in the future. So that $15,000 wasn't spent. It goes back into the capital improvement budget, but 2 years down the line. But what happens when we overspend for 1 year, like we did last year, you're not going to have that money available to go into the capital improvement projects 2 years from now. So the ripple effect, the sequela of what happens on decisions that were made last year, we must live with now. We cannot reverse time, and you must take ownership of that decision that was made. So, I don't know, has my name been called yet? Because I'm a yes on the budget. Let's move forward.
Mr. Clerk?
Commissioner Lara,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Mayor Lago.
Yes. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order?
Through the mayor?
Just 1 second.
Those are all the items, Mayor.
Our second budget hearing will be September 25th at 5:01. It'll be advertised as required by trim compliance, and so we'll see you here to adopt the millage and the budget on September 25th at 5:01.
Thank you all.
Through the mayor, I have a question here. I'm a little confused to where the 20 positions for the building department reflect here on the full-time employment classification page, the 10-year comparison.
So in the 10-year comparison, as was presented at the commission meeting, those 20 positions were added in the current fiscal year, so you'll see them
So I
in
do
the,
see that there's a delta of 39 positions, and now there's a lot less positions reflecting from 25 to 26, and I just want people to realize that that's not what was approved last year. 1 month before the budget was even, these were just added, basically.
so at the commission meeting, with all due respect, at 2 commission meetings ago, the budget was amended by this commission to appropriate funds from the restricted building reserve to fund 20 positions that were added in the current budget year. The purpose of doing that in the current budget year is because all of you have identified the need in that department, and we wanted to make sure that we could begin advertising and recruiting those positions. And so that decision was done to do it in the current fiscal year. The funds were available in the building reserve. Those funds are restricted to be used for building purposes only. And so they do not affect the general fund. There is no effect to the general fund at all. So that is the 948. That is part of the 948 that you see on that page that you're referring to for fiscal year 25. So it was this budget was appropriately amended to include the funding and those positions. So I just want to be clear because the budget is adopted in September, but it can be amended throughout the year, and this commission took that action to do so. And so the difference, and so those positions are funded in 2026. That was built into the current budget. and those are being funded through the building reserves as well. I'm sorry, through the building revenues next year.
But you do realize how it could be misleading to say that in 2024, when a different majority was here, there was 39 employees.
So the statement has always been made by the staff, and I think in this commission, that what was included in the fiscal year 25 adopted budget was the addition of 26 positions. Of those 26 positions, 10 were for police and fire, and 16 were for non-police and fire positions.
So if I may ask my colleagues, was anybody confused about that? Were you confused about that, Vice Mayor?
Not at all.
Were you confused?
I honestly hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah, again, no one's confused about that.
I
It's
just want to make
simple.
sure that we
And I
were
wanna-
clear if there was any.
The residents are not confused about that. Their residents are very sharp, they're very smart, and they understand, and they know that this money is not coming from the general fund. This money is coming from, again, from the building fund, where there's over $30 million, and now instead of bringing in, a private company to run our building department like you requested, we're now gonna bring in Rolls-Royce service, not for a few, but for everyone. So I wanna thank everyone again. Mr. Manager, you'd like to say something?
Through the mayor, the reason that we did that is because of the difficulty in hiring some of these technical positions. We wanted to start hiring as soon as possible.
Thank you. Commissioner Lara, you'd like to say something?
Yeah, it's almost 7 o'clock, but I just want to say, because I've heard quite a bit of this off the dais, and I'm hearing it on the dais, and I think it's important to clear it up. Commissioner Castro mentioned when there was a different majority on the commission as opposed to the current majority in the commission. I completely disagree. There is no majority that I belong to. I'm an independent commissioner. I will agree with those who are like-minded. I will disagree with people who are not like-minded. And my decisions are based on the facts and the circumstances as they exist at any given time. Just most recently, we had some disagreement on this dais with respect to the mayor's resolution to try and raise the State of Israel flag. In that case, the conversation at the time was Commissioner Fernandez, Vice Mayor Anderson, and the mayor were seemingly supportive of that, and I wasn't. So we have robust discussion. That's how it should be. The mayor's made that point before. In fact, everybody here should agree that we're all independent. But what I do not want is to allow a comment like that to be made, and my silence suggests that that's acquiescence or acceptance, which it's not.
Well, Commissioner, what I will tell you is I'm disappointed because I told you that you had no other choice but to vote in favor of every proposal that I bring forward. And like my friends at the Pay for Play blogs, Politico Cortadito and the Gazette say, this is a new faction. Just like when I stood here and Amos Rojas was rammed down my throat and the city's throat in the middle of a commission meeting, there was a majority that did that, right? There was a lot of things that happened here when there was a majority. But it's not about that. It's about agreeing on principles. It's about agreeing on principles, what you believe is right for the city. My principles have not changed. Before there was a majority of 3 when Kirk Menendez was here, and Lara was not. Still the same person. So is the vice mayor. So is everybody here. But at the end of the day, we just disagree. And at the end of the day, I hope you do vote for the Israel flag. But if I don't get the support, we'll find other opportunities to show our support for those victims.
Through the mayor?
Yes, sir.
And if that's the case, we'll continue to be collegial. We'll continue to be representatives of our residents. And I'm looking forward to the day that everyone on the commission sees it the same way, that we're all independent.
Yes.
Through the mayor?
Yes.
Through the mayor. I think perception is reality, and I don't want to make you feel like it's this majority or not, but there's facts. The facts is all your votes have been completely the same, even the same vote that you just did not vote on. Well, you did vote. We decided to defer, which means it was all the same votes. Hopefully in the future, we can show that more independence, I would say.
But why would you do that if you agree? Why would you do that if you agree with somebody? So I have to now vote against. So let me ask you a question. Let me give you an example. So Commissioner Fernandez brings something up. I have to vote against Commissioner Fernandez because
You gotta do the right thing. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, and then,
That's it.
but at the end of the day, the problem is that for 2 years, you led this community and you raised your salary. You gave yourself a car allowance to buy 2 Maseratis. You had an expense account. You hired a city manager in the middle of a meeting via LinkedIn. You gave a $20 million COLA. You hired employees when staff and when everybody told you, don't do it. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna keep reminding people over and over and over and over and over again, because again, you continue to try not to shame members of the commission because they vote in favor. We don't always vote in favor, but at the end of the day, we vote what's in the best interest of the city and the residents that we represent. We walked thousands of homes who told us, this is what we want, this is what we're looking for, this is what we need. So at the end of the day, I know it bothers you, but I remember being censured on this dais. I remember not even being able to have a mayor's council. I couldn't even have a mayor's council. You guys voted against the mayor's council. Ridiculous things just to poke me in the eye over and over and over again. If you bring something to this commission that's viable and that has value, I'll vote for it. I don't have a problem with it. I'll give you an example. I voted for I think you've written one piece of legislation in 2 years. That is the hangers that you put on doors in regards to notifications.
You forgot about the parking.
Oh, the parking. I voted in favor of the parking too. 2 pieces of legislation in 2 years. Two pieces of legislation in 2 years, which is amazing. I mean, great. I voted in favor of those. Should I have voted against those because you brought them forward? No. You see, that's a position that you took for 2 years when basically, like I said, I have this beautiful memo that I worked on. If anybody would like to read it, I've sent it to Holmes. I'll be sending it again soon enough, especially at the end of the budget season. I know it's ridiculously overdone, but I think it's important that everyone read it because it's important to understand the decisions that were made with your tax dollars. It's critically important. So please, don't reprimand and don't tell people how to vote. At the end of the day, they vote their conscience. I'm the only person that tells people how to vote here, okay?
Let's go.
I move to adjourn.
Absolutely.
All right?
Moved, second.
To adjourn.
Second.
By the way, that'll be on the blogs tomorrow. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I love all of you. The employees are the best. You guys do an amazing job. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to my colleagues on the dais.
Thank you for bearing with
Wonderful
us
night.
until 7 o'clock at
I'm gonna do this
night.
ready. I'm gonna do this here. Here we go.
Not hard enough.